Test, 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 test. Thank God it's a sunny day.
Mm-hmm. Does he go by John?
He goes by Johnathan.
Okay.
That's what I've been calling him.
Okay.
What's up,
Hey.
guy?
How's it going?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Can you hear us?
Can. I don't usually use a headset, but I have a great voice. But in the sense, it's always very strong.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Most people can't. They don't have a problem. But as long as it's clear for you? Otherwise, I could try one of these. Never done it.
Sounds pretty good on our end.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice to see you both.
Yeah,
nice
you
to
too.
see you. So I'm Colin. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, Colin, nice to meet you as well. Great, Tim, to see us in person. Tim and I just had a lot of phone conversations.
Right, right. We just had a jazz musician on. He plays a saxophone for our podcast, and I did
Okay.
his resume a couple years ago, and we had worked together for so long, and he had never seen my face before, so it was a big surprise for him. He's like, "Wow, I've never seen you all this time. It's great to do a video." But,
Yeah, it is cool to put a face to the conversation,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, being in sales and acting, I'm sure you know that. I was gonna
Yeah.
ask you, when we publish this episode and when we like promote it, do you
Yep.
want us to market you as John Gorman or Johnathan Gorman?
Yeah, Johnathan Gorman works. I mean, I
Okay.
was born John Gorman, but my father, I was a junior. So that got really confusing as I got about 17, 18.
Mm.
So I just added the Athan part to it.
Yeah.
So everybody knows me in the professional world as that. Although I'll get a lot of people back in the early days, you go back to hometown and everybody's like, "Hey, G, John, what's up? John,
Yeah.
John."
JG. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
go by JG quite a bit. Actually,
Yeah.
even my website and when I do coaching and I want to go into the speaking as I'm doing all of those types of things out there, I do go by inspired by JG.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And we'll how this will work is we'll obviously go through the interview now, and then Colin and I will attach like a 2 to 3 minute intro on the beginning of the episode, us just kind of recapping, summary, and then we'll send you everything before we
Cool.
publish it. So we'll send you the MP3 file for you to listen. We'll send you like show notes about like what we talked about at each juncture, and then we'll also link out your website,
Cool.
IMDb page, whatever you want us to link out, we'll link it
That'd
out
be great.
there. And then and then we'll go from there. Did all the questions look good? Is there anything?
Yeah, no, I got them. I got them here, and I just put some basic little notes just so I know what I'm kind of speaking to if I want to address them. But I'm a very free flow type of personality anyway, and I think that's the key in anything in life. And a little bit of what we'll talk about today is preparation is king.
For sure.
But getting locked into preparation and then getting so rigid in there and not sitting inside the flow, that moment of present connection, that's where a lot of people make the biggest miss.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that we'll have a very free flowing conversation, but I also want to ask you, is there so we can provide the most value to you possible when we publish this, is there anything that you just want to make sure we do cover, like what's top priority for you cover? Obviously the book. Is there anything else that you really want to make sure?
No, I think all your questions kind of hit it because it's a direction of the book is the book is really it's an interesting one, man. I didn't write a book because I want to write a book. You know what I mean? Yeah. In fact, there's a million books out there in the world, right? So that catch on this one here is the book is hopefully going to be something that people will keep with them because there's just hundreds to thousands of concept ideas inside of it. The gap for most people is that they actually don't do the work.
Right.
That's the piece that's the biggest gap. We'll talk about that in the sense of why the book and even in the sense of sales. And that's the fact of people get caught in motivation and they don't find their purpose. So from that, I want to hit on some of those.
Yep.
But I think we can hit on some of those even inside of, I can allude to, like, that's what
Right.
you're getting. When I'm looking at coaching and I'm looking at working with organizations, I don't want there to be a limitation that, hey, I'm in sales. This is about people and
Yeah.
people connecting with people. So that's the really growth of everything that I do, is making you the best you in what you want, what you truly want to be. In order to become that, you have to do some work and some rewiring of the conditioning environment.
Yeah,
Cool.
I love it. I have a feeling we're gonna have a lot of fire clips to clip from this
Oh, yeah.
to promote it.
We'll
Yeah.
just
We're
put
gonna
the
have a
whole
lot of
long,
quotes out here.
put the whole long form video out there. Just watch the whole damn thing.
Yeah,
You'll
exactly.
be fine.
There you go. Nice.
Exactly.
So, Jonathan, I guess to kick things off, maybe for our listeners, give a little background, who you are, what you do, and kind of how you got where you are today, and we'll dive in the weeds in between.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, I'm Johnathan Gorman, and I am a verbose talker. So, but one of the reasons for that is because I think when you externalize elements of what you think, you allow your world to understand who you are as a human being. And so I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It actually helps me always process a lot of great ideas. I'm originally from Southern California, but I live in Charlotte today. I have a wife, a daughter who's a screenwriter in New York,
That's
and I
cool.
have 3 furry kids now, 3 furry dogs here in North Carolina. So that's a little bit about me. I spent 40 years in California, and then I've been about 16 or so outside of that, 16, 17 years now outside of California here on the East Coast. Love the East Coast, by the way, in the Charlotte area. So in that regards, I've started my career in entertainment and acting. When I look at from a professional perspective, and I was pretty much right out of high school, I did not have a really normal job, corporate job. So when we talk about some of these and how I've transitioned entrepreneurship to corporate responsibilities, I didn't actually start that until I was 38, believe it or
Wow.
not. So yeah, so this is great for people who are really looking out there and going, I'm completely lost and I'm 25.
Yep.
What do I do?
Yeah,
Act. You know what I mean?
that's gonna be perfect. Yeah.
There's so much ample time. It's just learning how to do it right and become efficient. So I've spent 20 some years full time in the entertainment industry, about 4 decades overall now, though, when you look at it, still do it today as an actor, writer, producer, just bought a project. And then I'm also in the corporate world, and I've spent about 20 some years in the corporate world now. So that's really brings to the force of who I am today. I am a people person in the sense that I love to help people. People are complex, and that's not a bad thing. It's just sometimes that complexity gets in their way to achieve incredible results. And so that's kind of why I decided to write a book, was to help people become the best person they are. And that's when I do coaching. I'm very selective in coaching, and we'll talk a lot about that hopefully today, in the sense that you have to want it. If you don't want it and you're just doing it because you think, well, I should try it, it won't work. And so I'm very selective in who I work with or the types of speaking engagements that I do. I want to make sure that we're walking away with something very tangible for the person. Otherwise, there's plenty of books out there. It's $1 billion industry, right? And speaking world. So I want to make sure everybody really gets that the change factor, and that's the big thing that I focus on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And then did you, like, when you were younger, going back to when you were younger, did you always know that you were going to start out in the entertainment industry? And I guess, how did you kind of begin that journey? What did that look like?
Wow, that is an incredible question. It's an incredible question because nobody typically asks me that. And it's funny because I think my innate life was supposed to be in the entertainment industry. And the reason I say that, although I wasn't necessarily exposed to it, but my sister, she was in various types of creative outlets. And so she had an opportunity to go down to one of the big studios for an audition that they had. And they said to my parents, we don't want her, but we would love him. And so at that point, they were like, and we make fun of it still today. She laughed about it, and so she's like, and then my parents like, no way, absolutely not. This will be a war inside the household. So, and that, I think about what could have happened at that point. It could have gone a million different sliding doors, right? But I think there was an innate thing. I was a singer. I was very quiet as a child. and I'm not very confident. And so I was raised in a convent early on because my parents just worked. So they dropped me off at the church with the nuns. So I spent all day with them, and I'd go to mass, and they were singing nuns, believe it or not. And so they would use music to get me to vocalize. And so that was innate inside me, but I was a very big athlete guy. So it was hibernated, that whole artistic, till about my senior year in high school. And that was just by a fluke, actually the end of my junior year. And that's a little bit in my book. I cover that because I want to get very raw with people. You know, life is not pretty. You go through a lot of tragedies and you go through a lot of failures. And I wanted to be very vulnerable with people. I was a horrible student, had a lot of challenges going through it all. And so those are the types of things I express. And so it wasn't necessarily that I got into it early. I fell into it. I literally fell into it. And if I had never been born and raised in Pasadena, California, and then that area, there's probably no way I would have ended in the entertainment industry. It's just I didn't have a yearning to be one.
Yeah.
It's something that exudes out of me.
Right.
Yeah. Shout out to the nuns.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Right.
So yeah, it sounds like singing helped you kind of open that creative side, get into, entertainment. You said you were a horrible student, and we've had entrepreneurs on here for the last 4 years, and a lot of them were that way. Do you think that's because it's just things that you weren't actually interested in, that they weren't capturing your attention enough? Like if they had something musically inclined or sports inclined, you would have been a, quote unquote, better student? Or do you think just in general, school wasn't really made for you?
Yeah, no, good questions. You know what? There's a combination of that lock, in the sense that I learned later through the process that I was smart, but that took a long time, and I still challenge myself on that. So that's interesting. So the academic structure was hard for me because I'm a slow learner. So that means I process. It takes me a little bit of time to catch it, but when I do, I'm like a microchip, and it's stored information. So I couldn't keep up with the class. That was a lot of it. It wasn't that I couldn't understand the material that was being brought there. So that harbored a lot of, it made you become non-interested inside of school because you couldn't keep up.
Sure.
You use your other assets, your survival mechanisms to help you then at that point. And that was being just naturally inclined athletically, right? To this finding that singing voice and people appreciating that, having a personality that people enjoyed. You used all those things to subsidize that. And so you put school on the back burner until the point came in my senior year. My junior year, I was, caught cutting class. I hadn't been to a class, I don't know, in about 17 days or so. I was at school every day, but just not in this particular class.
That's pretty impressive though. 17 days before you got noticed.
Quite a run.
Oh, they pulled out a stack of cut cards. It was ridiculous. That was like a vacation for 3 years. I would literally cut a class, and I would be at a class. So I would go to whatever classes. I would go to the truancy officer and say, yes, I missed this particular class, which I attended. And then they would give me their thing with the card with the signature. And then I would just fill in excused on the classes that I actually missed. And so I was constantly there. Well, this one teacher, I changed classes. And so then she asked me, are you going to get going? I says, are you going to tell me what to do? And my bad ego got in the way. And I was like, well, I don't think I should show up back to this class again. So I just did it for the next 17 days. She saw me in the hallway. She grabbed me. We ended up into the counselor's office. They found out my stack of cards looked like this. And the next thing you know, I'm getting kicked out of high school.
So that's what I've been like, hey, she told me not to come back. I was just doing what I was told to do. Isn't that what this institution is? You tell me what to do, I do the things.
Exactly. And that was really the change point, though, of my finding out what I had inside of me, because I was not going to not graduate. That was just too embarrassing, right? Oh, come on, I got to graduate. So I convinced them, hey, I'll take the detention. Give me it all. Rest of the year, man, I'm good. Give me one more chance. I'll prove. And then I did a 3.95 in my senior year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't so much that, and I had 90 credits in my senior year. You did 200 over the course of 4 years.
Wow.
So
90.
Yeah, so it was really eye-opening. And going back into that, that's the thing that's weird, is because in my junior year, I'm cutting class and I'm in the library.
Mhm.
And a guy says to me, I ran into, he says, what are you going to do after school? I said, I don't know, play baseball probably, or something of that nature. And he says, and if that doesn't work out, I'm like, oh, probably sing. Why aren't you a choir? I'm like, I don't really think choir's for me. He goes, come on, man. You see me, we played high school, we played sports together and all of that. He convinced me to go try out for choir. They were doing choir for the next year.
Okay.
I did a Lulu, a la la la. Guy's like, wow, you have an incredible voice. You really should try out for Brighter Side Singers, which was an elite group. And I didn't know you had to be choir a year prior to be even eligible. Like, yeah, not really my thing, but I showed up. Another Lulu, another la la la. 3-4 minutes inside this thing, they kicked me out. Everybody else was like 20 minutes inside there. And I woke up in the summer with some polka dot shorts on and a whole bunch of people in my little dinky room saying, come as you are, you've made this thing. And that gave me 10 extra credits.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
nice.
It also put me in the musical. And that's how I got my first fix of what the entertainment world was like.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that was kind of the launching pad. So it was really my voice that was my salvation in graduating and getting enough credits and then launching in a career, which is just wacky.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And what musical was it? I'm just curious.
Annie, get your gun.
I don't know that one. I'm not going to pretend
Yeah.
like I'm not going to nod along like, oh yeah. I have no clue.
Yeah, it was a great one, fun music. I was so bad though that they wanted me to audition for the lead. I was so petrified. I couldn't even get lines outside of in my hand. I'm very nervous in front of people at that time, still am to today. People always go, "Oh, you're an actor. You could go do this." And that's not the case. And so they were like, okay, great. The guy can sing, but he can't act. So I got one line. And I think I still messed that one line up. And I get you more chicken salad. And then they had me dancing these core things and I can't dance. So it was a tragedy of just embarrassment all the way through.
Yeah, it's okay.
Wow, 90 credits in your senior year. So do you do better with pressure? Like, do you perform better under pressure? I have a little heat in the kitchen.
I think that, I think that could be looked that way, but I think that I live a life. My father would tell me all the time. He says, son, here's the problem with you. You have no level of complacency in your bones. So I constantly am pushing myself to the next level. And that's where I would love to see people do that with themselves. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to push yourself to achieve just these crazy things. But what if you want to just be the most incredible mom? The most incredible daughter, son, child, right? Relative, community leader. It could be anything. But I think you have to constantly be pushing yourself to going somewhere bigger and better in where you and who you become as a human being. And I do that to myself constantly.
Yeah. And before I ask my next question, Jonathan, we can cut this out. I noticed that, are you like at a table right now?
I am.
I noticed that when you
hit the table, when I hit the table,
the camera kind of shakes. I want to make sure when we cut this video, it's like, so just not a big
Don't
deal.
touch it.
Just maybe it's okay. Just maybe watch it a little bit because I want to make sure we get good video quality.
So if you just want to do this the rest of the time.
no, I could definitely. I'll make sure of that. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, of course, man.
At first, I thought it was me. I thought I was like, no, is it the caffeine? Am I like buzzing here?
No, that's good. But my question, my question was, when people want to go up to that next level, like obviously like it's one thing to just like decide that you want to do that, but like what's something that someone can do to reinforce that goal of getting to that higher level, like every day? Like what's an actionable tip that someone can do besides just like manifesting it in their head? Is there anything that they can do that will like keep them on that path towards going to that next level?
Yeah, so now you're asking two-parted question without knowing that, and that's probably the very first piece where most people struggle. Is it defined to what they want to accomplish in their life? And it could be as simple as what we've talked about: a community leader, being a stay-at-home mom, being a great dad. What is your purpose? It has to be something that you truly want inside of you. Okay. And then that turns it into what can you actually create that you believe you can become? And so when you define that, that's going to give you the first level of roadmap to be able to know how to go attack it.
Mhm.
Most people want, but don't have the will
Mhm.
to actually go do what they need to do. And
Mhm.
that's that work. And so the beginning phase of everything is truly understanding why. Goes back into, why do I want this?
Mhm.
Why do I really want this? What and when I achieve this, what then?
Mhm.
When you start to break it down like that, now you can ask yourself, am I inspired by this?
Mhm.
If you're inspired by it, the work becomes really easy. I always laugh because you'll hear it on so many conversations. You got to work hard to be successful. Work hard. Take that hard word and just extract it. You have to work, but life should be fun. You should be doing everything because it's great and because it's fun. When I work out every day, it's because it's fun, because I feel good. It's a part of my lifestyle. When I'm doing sales and I'm sharing time with people, I'm excited to learn about them. So the catch is why do I want to do that? Because it moves me. It inspires me. I'm not doing something because I have to. When you eliminate that have to and you choose to, the world becomes unbelievable automatically.
Mhm. Yeah,
That helps?
yeah, it does. That why behind it. And we talk about, like, anytime that you do business with someone and do a professional relationship, like, you have a contract. Every time you do a show or a movie, you have a script. We always
Yeah.
found that, like, these goals, like, it always helps, like, when you write it down and you have it, like, written out in front of you. And we talked about our show, like, I have an index card on my desk that says that I has goals for me as the person, as the husband, as whatever I am in my personal life, one for my professional life, and then one for the podcast. I have different, like, affirmations of, like, what guides me, because I think having something visual in front of me and writing it down, that makes it like, hey, like, I have a reason why I'm doing this, and it's something I can look at every day to kind of guide me towards that higher self that I'm trying to become.
Yeah.
So
And so let me ask you, when you do that, throw the questions back to you for a second here.
yeah, I love that.
When you're, by doing that, you don't really need, would you agree? Do you need motivation?
Not necessarily, because it's at this point, I mean, I love it. Going back to what you said, I find joy in it. I don't do it because I have to. I do it because there's like a higher reason why I'm doing it. And it all comes back to helping other people. That's the common thing about all the things I'm doing. But yeah, like, having that, I've literally memorized that card that I have, and it's become second nature, and it guides, like, every action I do on a daily basis. It's crazy and it's fun.
Yeah, because motivation is a drug.
Yeah.
It's truly a drug, and that's the problem. So when people look out there and say, "Oh, are you gonna, motivational speaker?" Absolutely not. Is your book motivational book? Absolutely not. I'll be an inspirational speaker because I can't motivate you. How am I going to be with the two of you guys? You guys are going to go today at some point. You're going to go different directions and do different lives. Who am I going to follow and keep happy through the course of the day?
Right. Yeah.
It's impossible. So you have to become happy. What I can do is become so strong in my life that I become inspirational to you. You start to go, oh, that's interesting. I want to learn how to become inspirational.
Mhm.
Then you define what it is that you want that inspires you. And now the flame's burning, and it's not hard because you're doing what you love to do.
Right.
But if you, oh, I'm doing this because I don't know why I do this, and then I hate this, there's nothing driving you. And so your boss is going, well, here, let me show you what you could be doing, or let me just show your performance levels. They'll never get you there because they can't be with you all the time. It's just giving somebody a drug, and it's going to always have a fail point. And so we really need to make sure people understand how to become inspired.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've talked to people where motivation, like, it does these crazy spikes.
Yeah.
Right. It might last 2 minutes, it might last 2 days, but eventually it's going to burn out. And that's where you're probably familiar with Jocko Willink. His big thing is discipline. He's like, that is what will get you where you want to be. It's discipline and nothing else. He goes, the motivation, I can motivate you all day.
Yeah.
He goes, but if you're not disciplined to do the things, then there's nothing for me to do.
Yeah. And become you.
Yeah. Right.
That's the most, everybody's given this amazing gift of being them. for whatever idiosyncrasies you have, right? I got tons of idiosyncrasies, but when you learn how to be you for what you are, then that's understanding how do I use that in the world. That's a whole nother conversation to a degree, but it's like you create your world. And what I mean by that is right now you're seeing me, but I have no idea what I look like to you. Now, either of you, if you were to actually draw me out, there may be similarities. Yes, you're going to both say salt and pepper hair, blue eyes, white, thinner face. But what do I actually
Chiseled jawline.
Oh, thank you. There you go.
Getting descriptive.
What would I actually look like to you? And then the character traits behind that you're subliminally thinking. So imagine if you both have that different perception of what you're doing, you're creating me. Do you like the way he talks? Do you not like the way he talks? And then when that subliminal elements start hitting you because you're just processing so fast your mind, you're actually establishing what you want me to be. And your actual conversation starts to trickle into, without knowing it, where maybe you're leading the relationship a certain way. I like this guy. You're leading it into a good relationship. It reminds me of my friend that I don't like anymore. And you're bringing off that there's this weirdness. The relationship starts getting weird. We are creating everything in our world.
Yeah.
So when we learn how to actually use that in everything and realize we're 100% accountable, that can change your whole game.
Yeah,
100%.
That's such a good point. Because whether you're like influencing someone or inspiring someone, or if you're in like a sales conversation or anytime you're trying to like influence someone in some way, like they're always going to evaluate you as the person before they evaluate the product you're selling, the idea you're selling, anything that you're trying to convince them of. They buy you first before anything else.
Right here. Imagine if I just blocked everything out and all you saw was that right now, my eyes. And you actually were listening to me and you could only see my eyes, the window of my soul, right? When I'm speaking, you would be able to go, what do I believe him or not? Because you're losing everything. And that's the greatest thing. When you look at somebody in the eyes and you shake hands with them or you greet yourself in a meeting, I always take that moment of just looking at the individual and saying, hi, I'm Johnathan. And your name? I'm Colin. And I look and make sure we're connected. Okay, great. And I'm Tim. Oh, great. And Tim, how long have you been here? So people go, how do you get connected with everybody so fast? Take that moment of time to really understand and let that person know, I'm with you, man. Are we connected? Let's be connected. If not,
I'd love to shake your hand right now. God, that just drew me in. I was like, let's shake hands. Let's snap it up, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go to Carolina.
Right? Yeah.
It's really cool.
There are so many things I want to make sure we hit, especially with our conversation of becoming you. But I want to go back a little bit. So you got in the musical in high school, and that kind of helped start you into entertainment. So after high school, take us there and kind of along your journey a little bit more.
Yeah. So, I just knew that it intrigued me. Let's put it that way. But there was about a year and a half burner, I would say, of just trying to figure it out, right? That's that wayward space of, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got this graduation high school diploma. I'm never going to, I need English 49. I'm starting on 49 just to get to 101. How many years is that going to take, right? So I was like, okay, let's just skip this whole college thing. It's not going to work out. Although I, see friends and hang out with them at car parties and stuff of that nature. But I then heard an ad in a radio station that said, you want a career in the entertainment industry, call this number. Okay, I do. I went down to Hollywood, Larrabee and Hollywood Boulevard. And they had 25 questions. They're like, man, you got a great look. You should get in this. They wanted me to pay $2,200 for this dinky little picture inside of a book. I'm like, I don't really think anybody's going to look through this book with all these pictures and go, that's the guy. I said, that just doesn't make sense. They said, well, we have a commercial workshop class for $250, 8 weeks. Want to do that? I said, yeah, sure. And took that class. And I knew right then, first class, I was like, this is so cool. Got my pictures done. This was snail mail back in the day, answering machines. I sent it to every agency in town. I didn't care. They were always stars only. Cool. I'll send it anyway. And started getting phone calls, met with agents. Met with one agency, where's the Kodak building now, it was on 1717 Highland and Hollywood. And so they sent me out to an audition. My very first audition, they walked in, they said, "How tall are you?" I said, "Oh, about 5'9", 5'10". You got to be 5'11". I said, "Okay, thanks." And that was it. Got home, had another audition, hadn't even signed with this agent, and they end up sending me out 10 days in a row. As I was still meeting agencies.
Yeah.
I come out of this one agency, this girl's like, "Wow, you have a great look. Is that your pictures of your book?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Can I take one of these? I want to give it to an agency in Dallas." Next thing you know, I got an offer to do a modeling job in Dallas. So get on a plane, I go to Dallas. In that between that agency had been sending me out where I had done a general with Kim Dorr, the Arthur company. They wanted to hire me for a show called Rocky Road. And I said, "Well, just call him up." He's like, "You got to tell us when you go out of town." And the next thing you know, so literally I was on a show called Rocky Road, is a little glorified feature extra with a line here or there.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into what was called American Federation of Radio and Television, which is AFTRA. It was before SAG and AFTRA were combined. And so, and it just started launching. MTV was coming to the market and tons of videos. They were making really cool videos when it first started. You know, you ever gone back on history and see that you guys are probably too young for MTV.
I
But
remember a little bit of MTV, not a lot though.
And bands would do really cool storylines. So I got to do like really cool parts in these little vignettes, and it gave me a lot of understanding. Video was just coming to the market. So it was just a kaleidoscope of greatness happening. And so they needed great content. So I'm doing all these little films, independent films for $500,000 to $2 million on film back in the day. This is before digital. And just such a great level of exposure. And then all of a sudden the studio started calling my agencies, and the next thing you know, it was just it was overwhelming, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I kind of became my own demise at that point. You know, I was like, wow, I don't know if I'm even ready for this. Never took an acting class, you know, and I just, it was a lot to take in, you know, and it's been challenging through the course of the 40 years. You always ask yourself, I don't understand fame, so I don't understand that element.
So what you're saying is the ROI from that $250 class was pretty good.
Incredible.
They should have flipped the dollar amount, $250 for the photo and $2,200 for 8-week course. And
you know, I used to write it when I had my acting studio in Indiana. I'd have a commercial workshop class, and I call it the money class. I would put up on the board, I would say $120,000, and then I say $1,200. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
Which one do you want? 120 grand. I say McDonald's. And then I'd say 1,200 Chicago PD. Right? So 300 and some commercials later of doing all types of commercials, I had a pretty lucrative career. Nobody knows who I am, but I've had a great time representing all kinds of incredible organizations, meeting so many amazing people, and just having a blast. And compared to working laborious hours to get lines down and all this when you make very little. So yeah, there's great strides when you land on big series, but people don't get lost. There's different mediums inside of the industry, and they each one has a different reward. And I think as the artist, we need to make sure we understand what truly inspires us. So today I don't do a lot of commercials. I actually had one released. I got a copy yesterday of one. And my wife always laughs. I showed it to her, the 30-second ad, and I jump off this bridge like a dock into the water with my son. And we must have done 80 takes. I ended up blowing my leg out at the end. I couldn't walk. Yeah. And so what happened was, and it's literally me jumping in. She's like, "All that for that?" I said, "Yeah." I go, "Now it's not that I don't love commercials. So if anybody's hearing this out there, but I go, now you understand why I put more of my focus in on other things, and I want to do other things. It's just not about a commercial here and there."
Makes sense. Jumping off a dock 80 times, it only gets so exciting.
Oh yeah, I literally, one more time. Final time, I literally jumped, and as I landed in the water, I could just feel my calf throbbing. I get up, and they had a medic there, and it was a very safe environment, fantastic organization. And I get up, and I'm literally just in excruciating pain. And I know there's something, it's not just a calf tightening. And I say to the guy, he's like, "Yeah, it's just a cramp. It's hot. You probably, jumping all this thing." And I couldn't walk on it for 5 days. 5 days. I got lucky. I actually thought I tore it. But it ended up just working out. After 5 days, I stayed off of it. And I wasn't sure if I was going to have surgery. I thought, oh, great, I'm going to have surgery. And then I'm going to pay more for my leg than I actually made on the spot itself,
Right.
on spot up until the one final time.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it sounds like you must have strained it pretty good or something.
Yeah,
Grade 2
yeah.
strain or something like that. Yeah.
You're using that same leg, right? Every
Mhm.
time as you're launched, and then you come up on the ladder, you're using that same leg pulling yourself up.
Yeah.
So it's
A
just
workout.
Yeah, it was a real workout,
Yeah. Okay. My question for you as well is, you mentioned at the beginning of the interview how when you were younger, you had kind of like you weren't as confident, you didn't have a confidence issue, or you had a confidence issue. Did that ever like creep up when you were starting your acting career, or was there like a defining moment where like you overcame that, or like really like got your confidence at some point when you started out?
So it's a fantastic question because the answer is going to surprise you. I'm still not. Yeah, that's the trick. People have illusions, and that's going to go into when you learn about yourself. What do you know about yourself, and what does the world see you as? There are two different perspectives. And so you have to align them together. You have to understand how they both function. The world, I could ask you guys this in return. Do you see me as a confident person?
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah, most people do, 99.9% of the world. But I have so many worries and insecurities that are always in play every day. There's days that I've had today we hear about people with mental abuse and addictions and all that. I've had days when I was struggling so hard I couldn't get out of bed, couldn't face the world. And here I am, is this person is coming out with this book to help you. It's going to hit you. So if you don't figure this out, it will hit you bigger, badder, and worse than you've ever wanted it to be. So you have to work on it on a regular basis. Confidence can be misconstrued because people think, okay, great. If I have confidence, I can go achieve the world. No, you have to have passion, and the passion will come out. This is my first podcast ever, right? This is the beginning of me going into a new chapter of my life. To not have anxiety and fear before this moment in time, that would be ridiculous. So every time you step on set, there's this anxiety and there's this lack of confidence. Can I do this? Are they going to figure out that I have no idea what I'm doing? And that's in play constantly. So we're constantly facing that every day inside of our world. We have to learn how to make it work, that it's not debilitating to us, and that we know how to manage it. And when we learn how to manage that and make it not debilitating, we can now come across as very confident in who we are. Because I'm being very true to who I am. You're asking me the questions. I don't know what I was going to say, and I'm answering them.
So what are maybe one or two practices or mechanisms that you've incorporated? Because I think there's probably a lot of people listening, and whether they're listening to this, there's a lot of people out there trying to do something that they have a fear that is just grabbing them, where, they can't put the camera on themselves. It's hard to promote, so you saying you have a confidence issue, yet you act, you speak, you write a book. What are one or two things that you've done? Maybe it's a daily practice or something that our listeners can take away where, okay, I relate with that. I have things and ideas I want to do that are me.
Yeah.
But I'm terrified because I'm not confident. I'm not as extrovert as I think I need to be.
Yeah, there's a couple. So I grew up in a family who was very into multi-level marketing sales. We're Amway back in the day.
Okay. Yeah.
And so there was a lot of seminars that they went to. And there was one gentleman that says, people, what you need to do is get out and just walk by people and say, hi.
Yeah.
How you doing today? And you're just walking through the mall or through the shopping center or through the grocery store. But just as you walk by somebody, just acknowledge them and say, hi. That's a very first step, because a lot of times it's just the feeling of insecurity of somebody connecting with that person. So that's a great start for anybody. Really get your children doing that. That's going to help children immensely. You're with them, so you're not worried. But I love when I see a child go, hi,
Right.
Running behind their parent. That child's going to be doing something pretty spectacular probably one day.
Yeah.
The other one is this is where, it gets philosophical. Like you said, I'm going to share some of mine, but I think health and fitness is tremendous because I'm 58 years old. Okay. and being 58 years old, people are like, what? Every time they meet me, they're like, this is unbelievable. And I'm in great shape. I enjoy working out. It allows me to be stimulated 100%. And that's going to help in the confidence level because you haven't let go of yourself. You've actually taken care of yourself, and that's going to be huge. I also meditate every day. Doesn't have to be a lot. It could be one day, it could be 15 minutes. Another day could be 20 minutes. Another day could be 2 minutes. It doesn't really matter. When you learn, there's so many variations out there. My variation of doing it is simply closing my mind. I use something by Mind Valley, and it's a 6-phase meditation. So that's out there. I think it's fantastic. Anybody can Google that, say the 6-phase meditation. Really fantastic. It's about a 20-minute one, but once you learn the process, I can consolidate it down and just use pieces of it at that point of the day. I've read one time years ago, God, that's the challenging world and the word in the world, because people will that turn somebody off or not? And so I would also say I'm very spiritual. It's raised in a convent. Let's get real here, right?
Yeah. Right.
So the thing is you can look at God as good, orderly direction. But I do believe when you bring in your fitness, when you bring in some form of meditation, and then some form of level of spirituality, okay, whatever that is, for me, that is the true level of Jesus and God. But I say a prayer and I read a scripture piece every day. I've also believed in the world that I'm here to take on whatever I'm given, and I'm not married to anything I have. And that sounds really weird, but that took a long time to actually let go of everything. By doing those 4 things in place, I say 4 because there's the working out, there's the meditation, and then there's that prayer, spiritual prayer, but then also letting go of everything. That gives me the freedom to go just show up. And just showing up is being happy of who I am. That allows the confidence to start. If the anxiety starts to creep up inside of that, I can be talking to you, but just start to say, I'm okay. There's also a thing you can go like this. People might not recognize it, but you can just kind of go like this to yourself. And you guys know the listeners can't hear it, but I'm rubbing my heart and kind of just tapping my chest a little bit. That's a very soothing and comforting piece. You might find another way of doing it. It's really weird, but it works great.
That's interesting because sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I've worked with a relationship coach before, and one thing was just kind of holding your hand there over your heart.
Yeah.
And just feeling what does it really need? Like, and you just have to tell yourself like, oh, that's what I need. I need to say this to this person, or I need to go do this action, whatever it is, and just kind of feeling what you need.
Yeah. Slow it down, right? It's just literally slowing it down. And it's by doing that, it's allowing you to feel the pulse of life. It's allowing you to say, hey, what am I really feeling? And take that moment. And then I'm okay. That's going to happen to me. And let the brain, because the anxieties, the blood's moving. Your brain's going too fast. And you just need to slow that down. And that gives you that greater clarity to kind of filter back in and figure out what you need to do. People should work on themselves every day. If they're not, they truly goes back into, they want it, but they actually don't have the will.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I feel like I bring this up on so many interviews, but 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey talks about private victory before public victory. Like you have to conquer yourself, thoughts, and everything before you can go out and serve the world in a meaningful way. And that's a very good thing that you talk about. Just like patting that and becoming. And
Tim, you bring up something really great. This is $1 billion industry of a book. So think about that. That means, why Johnathan? Right? That took 10 years right there. Well, why would I listen to Johnathan? And that was that figuring that out. I had to learn that and understand that. And that's where what I'm bringing forward in it is that what I didn't get from people so much was it was about motivating or techniques and tactics, but not saying it doesn't have to be hard. Go to so many motivational, using that word, because if you look them up on Google and you hear great speakers, world-renowned people with incredible content, but it's talking about motivation. It's not really talking about finding your personal personal power, your personal purpose, so that you're living inspired versus needing motivation. I don't want to make another book. I probably will one day, but I don't want it to be another book, or I want it to go and maybe it's going to be a novel or something. The goal will be that people won't need self-help books like this. And so when you look at that, the biggest thing that I get from people all the time is this is great information. It's the question that follows that. Then why aren't you applying it? Right? It's great information. Why aren't you applying it? And that goes back into the work. If you don't understand how to do the work, you have a want. You have an envision, but you don't have a will and you don't have a vision. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Vision and vision. Envision, I envision that I think I could, this is what I want. But I vision I can have it. I believe I can have that. Those become the separating pieces in it. And so when you realize, okay, I'm going to take my vision board, because your vision boards are what you're saying you truly believe you can achieve. It's not fabricated. You could put all these great pictures on a vision board, but then the bottom line is that you don't believe you can get them. The vision board is nothing. Throw it in the trash can. That's an in-vision board. Different game.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes total sense.
So much power. The moral of that is so much powerful content out there that I would never care if anybody took anything content from my book and shared it and used it in their speaking engagements, put it in their next book. We think that's the interchangeable piece that anybody who wants to help the world should be okay with. I know I use a lot of great things. It's like the great Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says, in order to change your reality, you need to change your personality, right? When you change your personality, you change your reality. To not share that with people, to make sure people are checking in with Dr. Joe Dispenza, that would be crazy. So you have to bring up things that you're talking about when you say, hey, 7 highly effective things of 7 highly motivated people, right? Is that then Stephen Covey, he's world renowned. People should understand it. But it's, again, only going to be content on paper, and content on paper without execution is just ink on paper.
Yeah, that makes sense. What would you tell to someone who they have the vision, they have the will, but they're just trying to get organized? Like someone like you, like you've done so many different stuff, and I'm sure you do a lot in every 24 hours that you get. Is there anything that like advice you give to people to kind of hone that in and organize it? Like, yeah, they have the will, they have the hard work ethic, they will execute, but we only have 24 hours in a day, right? So how do you stay organized and kind of balance all of that and still perform well in all your different avenues?
It's great piece, because it's going to be really complicated but very simple. And it was actually the piece that gave me the design. I had a million designs for my book, and when I say designs, structurally, what did I want to convey and how did I want to convey it? And when it finally hit, I realized I'm a filmmaker. I love film, and I've been in the corporate world, and I have this crazy story, personal story of just tragedy and all these different things that have happened and successes. And when I looked at it as making a film, I thought, wow, you don't make a film overnight. Would you agree?
Correct.
Nobody makes a film overnight. Everybody likes it. And we have a million filmmakers out there now, especially since the digital age. Throw a little camera on anybody. You can use a phone today, right? So this is fantastic. And that's the beautiful thing. But you can't make a good film overnight, just like that. So where do you start there? You start with a log line. That's 2 lines to tell your story. Story about 2 best friends. One's all-American, one's a rebel. Take them 16 years in their life. They change places. The rebel and the all-American becomes a rebel. The rebel and all-American, they come into a one-on-one confrontation between a cop and a drug dealer. Did you get that story?
Yeah, I did. Wow.
Just that simple.
Damn.
Right? You just got it. It's a story about a guy who wants to become a champion. That's Rocky. Then you layered it in 1976. Then you layered it in that he was a southpaw. Then you layered it into what he was doing. But it was about a story about a guy who wants to become a champion. As individuals, we need to do the steps of a film, because the film is the greatest guideline we can have, right? Think about it. We're going to start with an idea, but we're going to condense that into 2-3 lines. 1, 2, 3 lines. That's your purpose. Now you have that, you're going to do a treatment. And when you have a treatment, what are you going to do? You're going to flush that out. What do you want to accomplish in this time frame, in this movie? And then you're going to flush that out and bring your cast of people who are going to help you and your characters and cast and crew. And each one of those have a very, very specific reason. When you follow that actual process, and that's when it went, oh, this is so cool. Because how many people have been in the film industry? How many people have had crazy life? How many people have been in the corporate world? And you can use all of this and bring it into this one book. And that's when it dawned on me, wow, making it about film and sharing what a film role is, what is a log line, then correlating that to that's defining your purpose. That's your first step. Don't go to start financing your film or your life. What are you financing? You don't even know what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the log line. Go to the treatment to a screenplay, the screenplay to a producer. You might be the producer who's going to love you or this thing so much that you're going to go. That's the inspiration now, because you know what you're selling and what you want to bring forward. And then who's going to be the director? Who's going to be the casting person? Who's going to be the financer? Who's going to be my lighting guy? Make sure that I'm vibrant to the world. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great
I
breakdown.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great way to
thank
break
you.
it down.
That's a good visual. The log line. You have the storyline, or you have like the beginning to end, what you want to accomplish in a comprehensive statement, and then the small details you fill in and you kind of check them off as you go.
Because if you sit there and you go, I have an idea, and you flush it all out. You may have the idea for the treatment or the screenplay or the end, but before you go and start to type, get that now condensed to that log line. It's the same thing in life. What do I want to accomplish? Let it riff. Go all over with it. That's the beauty. And then keep asking the whys. And what's inspiring me? Okay, you know what? These 5 things did. You know what? I pushed these other 10 out. Okay, of these, which one here? I got it down. Finally get it to that one. Write it out what that means in one line. If you don't do this, I hope every listener hears this. The level of potential success is very minimal. I practically would say don't even try, especially if it's a business venture, especially if it's a film. Honestly, it's a give up. It's literally a want and not a will.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that. That was
That's
great.
awesome.
We'll cut that.
Yeah.
We'll cut that part. We'll clip that.
Clip it.
There'll be a lot of those already.
So Johnathan, we recently had another filmmaker on a few episodes ago, good friend of mine, and I want to ask you the same question we did him, and just see what kind of overlap, if there is any. But to you, what really makes a good storyteller? Like, when you're storytelling, what is one of the biggest key aspects that you need to have to tell a great story?
For me, as a filmmaker, the first one is the characters. The characters have to resonate with me. You can put the characters anywhere. If they're great and they're complex and they have wants and desires and needs and all these just thriving levels of complexity, layers to them and conflicts, you have something amazing. You can put that in anywhere. I just purchased a script. It's one location, and it's an internal just mind game inside of this guy of what he's going to be going through the course of it. And you'll unravel the story through these other characters. That's so critical, because, characters are unique, but yet alike. That makes sense. But characters also are, when I was taking a workshop class in screenwriting, the guy said, don't write the everyday. People go to films or people go to movies to see what they wish they could do. So find the complexity in the characters and who they are, and create them and give them a great voice I once was writing a script that the woman, I wanted her to have, she was 70 years old. I'm going to take her back into time to her very first childhood love. And I wanted you to identify with her persona ASAP, like that, right? How do I do that? So I have her out there and she's working in her rose gardens. I have a mailman come up. I name the guy Frank. Now, when you think of mailman, if you were to close your eyes and go, I'm going to picture the mailman, you're going to think probably, 5'6" to 5'8", little reporty, kind of guy, jovial, this and that. No, man, I made this guy Randy Johnson, 6'9", pockmarked, skinny as a rail, ponytail in his hair. He walks up. That gives you, wow, gets the audience seeing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is this guy? How did he become the mail guy, right? And so then he says, oh, those roses look like winners again. It's just a simple line. But now you think, okay, what does that mean? So in the end, her very first line is, she looks at him, she turns around and she says, horse crap, Frank. Now this 7-year-old woman saying horse crap, Frank, then it was like, that just tells you everything. Okay, she's crass. She's Kate Hepburn, right? She got it. And then you want to show that she's witty and intelligent. And you're like, okay, great. She's like, she goes, and besides, what do you know? And she goes, and how do you know they're winners? And he's like, you can tell by the buds. And she's like, look, the only thing you know about buds is the liquefied version sitting in your hand down at the watering hole trying to pick up on chicks. And if you really want to know the truth, you're not very good at that either. And that tells you everything about this relationship of these two people. And he's going to give her this piece of mail that's going to be the catalyst to this movie. So in literally a moment in time, this character interaction of two unique personalities gives you, it could be anywhere. Yeah. That's the coolest piece.
And I'm going to watch movies so differently now, because throughout a few lines in like 10 seconds, you told a whole story just in that little time and interaction.
Yeah. It's like when I did Chicago PD, I share with people great characters. And when I audition, I have opportunity to audition. I'm always sharing with my agent, please help. Sometimes I just don't want to do this piece because the lines and the work, the text, I really would have to work at it. And I've got a corporate job, right? So I'm truly trying to find the ones that will resonate with me. But when I got on Chicago PD, think of this. The opening line is, Jared Gannick, we need to talk to you about your ex-wife. That's the opening line. That's what they're going to say to me in the very beginning. I'm going to say, well, what'd she say? Let's just go with that. And they're going to say, what would she say? So there's much more to the scene, but let's just take that. Subtext of complexity. I'm going to show you how when you write this is where you want to give the actor, and you don't want to tell the actor everything. You want the actor, the artist, to be able to come in and give their persona of what they want. And so if you write all the details, feels this, and all this direction, and that's how you make your movie, you're losing all this great magic that's potentially available to happen. You're just to give the basic story of the flow, right? So now imagine in this one, Jared Gannick, we need to speak to you about your ex-wife, okay? Now, there's a lot of people who have ex-wives out there, I'm sure, that still have good relationships, and maybe some of those with benefits. Let's just say I was in that window of time. Okay. Well, what would she say? That would be my answer, right? Yeah. What'd she say?
Yeah.
Now, maybe theirs would be, knowing that she's in ICU. Well, I don't know. What would she say, right? Like, that's a weird reaction, but it's telling you something. It's not in the script. The next one is, what happens if she just served me again for more money? Jared Gannick, we need to speak to you about your ex-wife. What'd she say?
Right.
How much did I change? I changed a ton, but how much did I actually vocally change? Not much. It was the subtext that wasn't there that you can allow your characters. Don't give everything the house. I always try to say when I'm finding the dialogue is how in a scene, I want to get into the scene as late as possible and out of it as fast as I can. Into it as late as possible, out of it as fast as I can, and only say what I have to say. I was at a film festival one time. The guy who wrote John Adams' series, he said, we were talking about screenplays and all that, and he said it was great. Had Paul Giamatti and Laura Linney, and there's this great scene, and they came up to him and they said, you know what? I don't think we need to use any of the dialogue. Are you okay with that? He's like, sure. And they just realized that I could do this scene without words. That's actually a craft in itself. Do the scene to yourself and film yourself as you're doing your self-tape, and don't actually use the dialogue, but act it, feel it, and then put the words to it.
That's cool.
I like
Yeah.
that. And that goes back to like, it's not always what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
what's
that's
going
amazing.
on?
Yeah.
Right?
What's
Because
going on inside? Yeah.
we've got 3 of us in this conversation, correct?
Yes.
No, it's not. We have more. How many are actually in this conversation right now?
Is it technically 6?
Yes.
Yes.
Why?
Because
Why?
we're interacting on the outside, but we also have stuff that we're thinking on the inside too. There's 2 versions of us.
Fantastic. Yes.
That's good. That's a good
And
point.
that's where in acting we can't have that, although we do have that to some degree, right? So we have to be present, because what are they giving us? What are they not saying? What are they contextually throwing out there, right? Inside of all their different things that they're doing or not doing, or that's roving, and you got to be there. If you're so worried about the line and not what's happening, you're in trouble. So characters, going back to your question, now you can say, oh yeah, right? Now, do I light them dark? Do I light them this? What's my color palette? What do I want? What, in older film, which is great, I'm going to not try to put younger filmmakers down today. That's not what my intention is here, but they were very concise in depths. Like, I'm going to have this person on this side of the area of the frame, for this person over here, but there's an island between them, because that's telling that there's conflict between them. They're not close in symmetry together for this reason. There was just a lot of movement that was being captured inside the composition. Every piece of filmmaking should be a still that speaks life. And all you're doing is compiling a whole bunch of beautiful stills that make a rolling movie.
Interesting. Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to move back to the transition from entertainment industry, filmmaking, acting into your corporate career, sales career.
Okay.
So I guess where we could start is like, what was your motivation to go back or go into corporate, and how did your filmmaking and acting career help you excel in that?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I had a daughter, and my daughter, as she was getting older, you have good years and bad years in the entertainment industry, as you would understand, there's just due to contracts, conflicts of contracts, and the stuff that what you can do and can't do. Especially I was a big commercial actor, right? That was my big bread and butter. So I might have a year or two of really high income, and then a low one, because I couldn't do another soft drink ad because I already had one running. I couldn't do a fast food one because I already had one running. So my audition level was low, right? And very difficult to get film and television roles. It's just very, very difficult. And so unlike commercials, they like your look, and it's a whole different game. So what happens is I was like, okay, I need to have a backup, and I need to have a job. And so that's how I fell into doing it. When I got into sales, it was funny. The very first time I sold something, I was selling a copier to an attorney's office. And the guy was so vicious, I was crying. And literally, he looked at me and he said, listen here, kid, relax. I'm going to buy these copiers from you, but I'm going to make, he goes, don't worry about people. I'm going to make this is the toughest sell. You'll never have one harder than this ever again. And when I got through that experience, and then I started getting through more sales experience, there was a euphoric element that was very similar to acting, winning an opportunity and bringing something together, and quarterbacking this 2 businesses or entities coming together was very euphoric for me. And so that was like going on the casting call. Now the sales calls were like the casting calls, and then getting the deal was like getting the job. So I saw a lot of correlation there. And I would say that was the piece that kept me in the actual sales world. Plus everybody there's a perforated line. There's the pyramid up here or upside down. And when you look at it from the top one, it's power and security. And down below, it's money and security. Because here's the reason why. Here, up the top one is they want leaders. A lot of times they want to be, it's a power play for them. It's very big for them. and they don't, but there's this perforated line to the sales guy. If you're a great salesperson, which we're all innately born to be a great salesperson because we come out, we can't speak. So we're actually, everything we're doing is conveying sales to our world, right? So people say we can't sell, sure you do. You refer movies, you refer clothing places, you're selling all day long. So don't say you can't sell. I've never sold, just so you know, and I'll explain that here in a second. But what happens is that perforated line of somebody who can sit inside that uncomfortability and not know how much money they're going to make. So there's not that perfect level, maybe not really have all the power because they're not really dictating. They're not on the leadership team, but they don't have the job security inside of just that regular, every day 9-to-5 job. That's the one that every organization needs. It's the bloodline. I like that. I say I didn't sell because I don't have your checkbook, right? Yeah. What I do have the ability to do is to bring you an awareness of what do you want, and do we have what you want, and do they align? So if we can sit inside the conversation and we can say, what do you want? Okay, great. Here's what we have. What's our delta? If there's not one, what prohibits us to move forward? If there is one, what do you want? What do we have? Stay here. Can you not need this? And it's either there. And so you just stay inside that. I'm not making your decision. I don't own that. I just owned you the ability to create a world of possibility. Because a lot of times people's possibility is built into their belief system. The belief system is why they're doing their why, but they don't know why they're doing their why, because their belief of what they believe might not actually be accurate. That's just called conditioning. Or maybe they fell into their role and it's been told this is what we do. They don't necessarily create the world. That's the belief and the conditioning that they live inside. And until you give them a new realm of possibility and expose them to creating something new, a lot of times I see the rigidness inside somebody and I can say, oh, cool. You know what? Let's do a whiteboard for a second. Imagine you don't have any belief about something. Can you do that? Because if you can do that, I think we can have a really interesting conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you gotta.
That help?
Cool approach.
Yeah, they gotta have the belief that they can attain that future that they want, and then and how you kind of fit into that. That makes sense.
And then it gets into preparation is key, right?
Yeah.
You got to have that, and you got to have the ability to evolve, and there's a lot of other tangibles to become great at anything, especially if I'm sharing that with sales. But I think the biggest thing is stop thinking you can sell and start opening it up to you just want to have great conversation about creating possibility.
That's a good approach.
I like that approach. Yeah, and I feel like the best salespeople, like they ask the best questions that allow people to kind of verbalize that too. Because sometimes I feel like when you talk to people, they may not be fully aware of their situation. They may not have all the information, but they need someone to at least ask them the questions to help them open up possibilities too that they didn't even know were possible as well.
And frame it. A lot of times I get on a phone call. I'm 20 years now in this industry, right? I'm recognized in some facets of an expert inside of what I do, and especially today, my current role. And so I'll open up and I'll say, okay, great. What brought you here today? What do you know about our organization here today? And then here's what I'd like to do today. Are we in alignment with that? Great. Okay. Now, the first thing I think I should probably clarify is why listen to Johnathan? Like literally, let's validate that for a moment. So here's my background. And here's why I think there's a value that I'm going to be able to bring to you. Bring that forward. So somebody out there is probably going, oh, that's great. He's 20 years in this business and I'm only new to this business. Great. So how do I do that? That's a beautiful thing sometimes, to be new. New is new, inquisitive. New brings new thoughts, new ideas. You have the opportunity to go learn a lot about your product. Find those deltas. Just because you're new doesn't mean you can't point out information, and you can point out, I'm new, but this is what I've seen. I've listened to some of our really experienced people and the conversations they've had, and I want to bring this forward to see if you've had this same thought process and it's the same challenge. As I'm new, it's still helping me along the way. So you can still navigate through that way and become somewhat of the expert without being the expert.
Yeah. I like what you said there. Like, I've had conversations with people who experience and I've learned this, like being able to like bring that in as well, showing that, hey, you put in the effort to learn and have conversations. That'll speak volumes about what you want to achieve. So
People want to know you're honest and you're truthful, right? You want to be authentic. You're authentic, but the only way to be authentic is be vulnerable.
Yeah.
They go hand.
And I think that line, if someone's new in sales, like owning it, like, yeah, hey, I'm new here. I don't know what I don't know. I think that kind of brings down some of the guarding of who you're quote unquote selling to. And they might, treat you a little differently, soften things up a little bit, actually listen a little more. So I think it might work to some people's advantage to actually throw that in, like, hey, I'm newer to this. Let's just chit chat, see what you got going on, see what we have going on, and let's talk.
Yeah. There's really, the key of it's going to be is knowing, I do a lot of preparation for anything that I do. And then sometimes I never use any of it. Just that's the way it is. The preparation is just what it is, called preparation. If it comes up, right, I know where to go. I have ideas where I want to go, but if I start doing it my way, then am I getting them to buy what I want or what they want?
Right.
I want everybody to buy what they want. I want them to buy what we have, only if they want it. Because if it doesn't fit their strategy, and it's not something they believe will actually benefit them, then $1 is too much.
Good point.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a great change in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And it just brings a new light. I'm sure we have salespeople that will listen to this, but brings a new approach to, quote unquote selling. Like your pitches. Everyone thinks they got to pitch everything. It's like, well, part of what you're saying is listen to what they need. Like, what do they want? What do they believe their problem is?
Yeah.
And can you help that or not?
Yeah. Think about anything I said. So if anybody's listening and they're going like, I'm sure you have listened to what I'm saying is Ed, they're listening openly. What I mean when I say is anybody listening, because you first have to listen openly to be able to bring something forward. But if you are, put it into selling a shoe, selling a car, selling a house. It doesn't really matter. Anything. Put it to anything. Well, what do you want? Why?
Yeah.
Why do you want that? Okay, so you get all of that defined. Here's what we have. So that's one. This is two. Where's the delta? If there's no delta, what prohibits us from moving forward? Right?
Yeah.
Now, if there is a delta, you're just inside of this until you figure out that it's either acceptable or not acceptable. It's that simple. Now move that into those people who are struggling because the labor force, I'm in that world, right? The labor force is huge and they're looking at interviewing. Okay, what do they have? What do you want? Does it line? Your final question, they ask all the time. The interview always says this. So let me ask you a question. Do you have any questions for us, for me?
Right.
Yeah. Now that I understand what you want and you know who I am, is there anything that would prohibit us from moving forward? Because I'm here now to answer any questions.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it defined. Well, and I've had people do that. Well, I think da. Great. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's countless people who will leave an interview and they'll be like, I don't know how it went. That's the best question you can ask to get that instant feedback loop of how it went. Yeah.
If you do, it's the only question I have typically, because I'm going to listen and ask questions along the way, but that's when that final, it's extracted at the end, all of that. That's the one that I need to know.
Yeah. That's such an excellent point. Because I think that's a mistake that people fall into. They wait to ask all their questions till the end. You should be asking questions throughout the entire thing. It's a two-way dialogue, but that is the single best question to ask at the end. You're right.
Yeah, you should never be working or not working for something that you don't believe in or that you don't want, and vice versa. They want you. This is a partnership. It's a marriage. Don't ever feel in life that you have to do anything again. I am working today in my corporate role because I love my organization. They know that. It's on a gazillion recordings of our sales calls. They hear me say it all the time. I love my job. And you can see that. You can see that I'm passionate about it. I don't wake up one day of my life not wanting to do my job. I love it. That's the greatest gift in the world. Every day of my life is everything I want to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great
Really
to
cool.
hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is your organization more sales coaching? Do you have products too? What do you actually, I mean,
Yeah, so we
you
have
said
a
you're not
solution.
selling, but
Yeah, so no, I sell, not selling, but yeah, we're, you get what I'm saying. Yeah, thank you. So we help organizations of how they bring their jobs and their employer brand, the value of the organization, why you'd want to develop a career there, onto social, onto the various elements. So candidates today are using social, like, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all these different, social entities. They're using those to learn about organizations, find jobs. And so we help organizations really maximize how do they put that social presence and footprint there in an automated way. It's so timely. It's a lot of times, again, breaking down the belief that, I have a slide that I use, 92% of organizations actually use social. But then I'm out there doing speaking engagements and I'll hear like 22%, 24% say that's a priority for them. Well, think about that. So what am I doing? Am I solving 8% of the world and I have a very low level of priority to it? That's what it's saying. If you look at the statistics that way, but then I'll show them, I'll say, but this is what I'll spend time in these conferences that you've been in, and everybody's talking about individuality and identity. And yet, here's the examples of most people's content out there. It looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
And they're doing work. So imagine if we can reframe that and make it look incredible, speak to your audience, differentiate you, and you don't have to do work.
Yeah.
It's the whole game. Yeah. So that kind of speaks to, let's bring that back into everything that we've been talking about today. That's that checkbox are you just checkboxing life and throwing it out there, just the checkbox of getting your job? Yeah, your job's on social, but it doesn't speak who you are. Are you throwing your life out there, but it doesn't really speak who you are? Are you really taking the time to make sure it's high quality, relevant content of who you are into the world so that your audience can see who you are and what you're about? This is a new venture for me. We talked about being an expert. I think by now you would say, I'll throw this question back on you. Have you learned anything today?
100%.
Definitely.
100%.
Okay.
I already know something I'm going to apply because we had this conversation. Like,
awesome.
As soon as we get off this conversation. Yeah.
So hopefully every listener out there is going, wow, this guy's got some really cool things that I can learn from. If they get one thing, then this was an incredible session for them. Your podcast was a success. This one episode, right?
Yep.
We all benefited. I'm new to this world. We've just got in. I'm an expert in some areas, and then I'm new to this world. But why not? I didn't have to come here and say, oh yeah, I've got this and I'm all buttoned up and got all that. No. This is the beginning of my new life of where I'm going. I'll have my corporate life here, but one day I'll age out of that corporate life, and that new life will also continue to help people to the day that I die. That's the greatest gift I can have. Nobody can ever take that away from me. And that's what I love about having this session right here in the beginning of where my future world, my last chapter in my life will go, is going to be really just continue to get my voice out there and share the what I like to say is the accumulated wisdom. So you can navigate through accumulated wisdom the right way.
I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, on my card that's on my desk, I have the line for my podcast. I said, I want to build relationships and interview influential leaders so that I can educate people on being the best versions of themselves. That's the goal of this podcast. That's what we want to do. And yeah, you definitely helped us with that today for sure.
And I actually want to bring that even more, as Tim and I, you and I have had this relationship prior to meeting, like in a virtual session now of physicalness. But you recrafted my LinkedIn page and my resume. And let's talk about that for a second, because that's really fascinating. A lot of times when you look at it, is in my life here, I'm sharing all these great things, but I'm not a resume writer. I'm not a LinkedIn writer, but do you go to the gem maker to build your house? It would be weird if you did, right? Stealing that from Og Mandino's book, but you get what I'm saying. And the thing is that go to the experts in that. I mean, I don't have a college degree. My resume looks, as Tim knows, as wacky as a roadmap as one could ever imagine. So but it's the coolest one when you actually get to know it, right? It's
Yeah.
just so
Oh my gosh, it was
fascinating.
such a fun project to work on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. But now Tim brought his creative ability and his skill set and his capabilities, his professionalism of what he's become the expert on. And I made sure I brought that into my world, because that's like building the movie. I need to have the sound guy, or I need to have the cinematographer, right? Those roles that are so critical. And I brought Tim into my world. He recrafted that. And you'd be surprised how many people reach out to me now about different types of jobs or interest in and wanting to know more about me. And I think I'd be perfect for them. And I hope my company's hearing this, because I'm constantly saying, yeah, do you know how hard it would be for you to get me to work for you and not where I'm at? So even though I had that done, it didn't mean that I necessarily was seeking a job. What I was seeking was to become the best of me in the world that was out there. And if it's available, to make sure I'm not just checkboxing it, and I'm doing it on the most optimal level. And that's what I got from Tim. And I think that's really important. So as you guys continue to evolve your audience, you're going to continue to evolve as people and become experts and experts. The world is your plethora, it's your oyster to whatever you design it to be, not only in this or whatever pieces of your life. That's the greatest thing of what hopefully you'll get even from our conversation today. And what you get the gift of the podcast allows you to learn from so many people, and then try it and then share it. You know, the greatest lessons is coaching. It's learning something, coaching it, sharing it, and then and learning more from that execution.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot that you say that. It was an honor to work on your project for you, and I'm glad that I played that role. So yeah,
Thank you. I
you.
appreciate that. Yeah.
So Johnathan, you mentioned when we were talking about sales, sometimes you got a whiteboard,
Yes.
kind of start fresh, open things up. What would you say is one of your most recent moments? And it can be acting, sales, anything, but one of your most recent moments where you had to whiteboard yourself, where you had to look at something, open it up a little more than maybe you thought you might have had to.
Yeah, I think it's constant, to be honest with you. You know, that's the beauty of it all. Is and I'm going to share a couple of examples, but in my own, even in my world here at the organization, I am selling, but I'm also the coach for sales to help my team. That's a very challenging environment, because I'm not dealing with people who don't know how to sell. These guys know how to sell, which is fantastic. But can they sharpen their pencil? And so the only way they're going to be able to sharpen their pencil is if I'm sharpening the pencil or giving them the canvas to be able to do that. And so that's constantly reframing and making sure, am I actually evolving? Am I actually bringing something greater for them to hear or listen to, or the hard conversation? You know, I was recently at an event with somebody, and they said, God, you have so much energy. It's crazy. You know, and I said, yeah, he said, you know, I'm sitting a little stir crazy here because we're waiting for people to come to our booth. We're at home. Can be sending out emails or doing whatever I need to be doing. And so in that, I realized there's this coaching moment there with this person. We're connecting. And that was when I said, you know I'm your coach, but at the same time, and I know you can sell, but I hope you know that I can sharpen your pencil if you want me to, but you have to want me to.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so that's a constant whiteboard. Then it's like, okay, yeah, now I have to figure out what it is, because him and I need to whiteboard it at that point. I'm on our HOA board right now. We needed somebody. I end up in there. Everybody's like, Johnathan, can you do it? Okay, fine. I'll do this. Right. And so,
HOA board.
and that's a massive learning lesson.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly whiteboarding with the property management people. Listen, I know you've done things a certain way. I'm new. Why do we do it a certain way? I'd like to know. Just want to verify that it has to be that way, right? So what I'd like to do is let's just kind of put a clean slate here, forget what is. Let's deconstruct it to reconstruct it, and it may look exactly the same. But what happens if it doesn't? And it just happens to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right? Aren't we doing that in our relationships? I have a 31-year-old daughter, and your dad and daughter, and now she's a screenwriter, and we just brought this project together, and I'm going to have to figure out the whiteboarding on that alone. It's the first time we'll ever come together working on a project. We need to learn. We don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
So we need to figure that out, what that's going to look like. She's never worked with me on that level, and I could be very intense, in the preparation room.
Sure.
I remember one time I was in my meetings, and a guy said to me, he said, listen, he goes, I got the set, and crisis, this, that, running up to me. I'm like, okay, got it. And he goes, are you high? And I said, I laughed, and I've never done anything like that. I said, no, why? Because you're so intense in our meetings and you're so relaxed. I said, because we should be intense in our meetings because we're prepping and we're figuring it all out, and we should be pushing and challenging, punching holes in everything. But hey, it's Super Bowl Sunday, man. We're here.
Mm-hmm.
We've done all the preparation. Now let's let it fall apart, because the magic is when the wheels fall off. That's the magic, man. That's when we're going to capture some really cool things. So I think that when I use whiteboarding, I hope that answers the question and how it can be applicable all the time. If you're doing something that has been so constant, sometimes a whiteboarding moment is really cool to deconstruct and reconstruct through why do we do what we do. And it may come the same, but it may not. And typically it won't. And it typically will go somewhere bigger and better, especially in the corporate world, because too many people move and transition, and people get replaced and moved into the pockets, and it becomes conditioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love how you're intense when you prepare, but when the event is happening, you're cool as can be. And my dad always said, since I was real little, he's like, the most prepared in the room will win. Yeah. And whatever it is. But I think that just gives, it gives a different level of confidence too. If you're not prepared, you're going to be in a frenzy if something goes sideways. Yeah. If you're prepared, even if it's something you did not prepare for exactly that thing, you're like, okay, well, what things do we have in place? What can we change and do? And it'll figure itself out.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
I was just working with a client, and I do like human performance company, and she's losing weight for the military, doing a cut, and they expedited our plan by 3 weeks. And so we had to go to an extreme. And I'm like, well, I didn't plan for this exact, but we have a good foundation. Now we have to change everything on a dime. And she's freaking out, right? And luckily they gave her a little more time, but we cut a lot of weight really fast. And so it's just, changing your plan when it has to.
Yeah, changing your plan. And you brought up some really key points that are critical, because there's people out there, and I know you've shared this a couple of times, both of you, where it's, how do I start? How do I start? I think that's the paralyzing piece for most people. How do I start? We've just shared a plethora of content, of exchanges today. I mean, what's the reality? People hear today, this podcast in this session, what is the true reality that they'll go back and listen to it again? Very minimal.
Yeah.
You can't absorb everything that we've said. And so if you don't think at that moment, I need to take very, very, very baby steps in the beginning to start, that's okay. But you have to take the baby step. And the baby step, if you're overweight, unhealthy, eliminate one thing. You don't have to do everything. Just eliminate one thing. Walk to the mailbox, or down to the end of the driveway, or that 100 yards for a week, or whatever it might be. Let your body tell you when you can walk a little further, right? If you're drinking, I'm not the expert in addictions here, but think about this. Just cut back one drink, right?
Yeah.
You have the willpower to do that? One cigarette, right? One day, one minute of meditation. There's so much you can do, baby steps. I always see people when they make this transformation and the lights go, oh, it's because the pain was so great at one point that they actually had that tragedy that they needed to change. I had a gun to my head one time in my life. That's brutal. That's brutal. Think about that. Would you have ever thought that?
No.
No. I've been molested in my life. Those are tragedies. But those tragedies don't define me. They take one step. It just showed up to class one time instead of skipping 17 times. Just get there one time, right?
Yeah.
And find the habit, find the reason. So hopefully that's the biggest takeaway, in the sense, I know there may be some things you still want to ask me, but I want make sure everybody in this world gets to understand that nobody doesn't have tragedy. Everybody has an amazing story, good and bad. Everybody has to start somewhere, but you have to want to start somewhere and have the will to know you can go through it and get to where you want to go. And it could be fun.
Mhm.
It could be fun. A roller coaster, man. Make it a roller coaster, because there's nothing that says it doesn't have to be fun. It should be fun. But it becomes fun because you've defined the purpose of what you truly want that one step to be, that first step.
Yeah.
So cool.
I love it.
That's
Thank
beautiful,
you so
man.
much.
Yeah.
Baby step. It only takes
Yeah.
one baby step.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
that momentum going. I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
I like what you say about like just the fun aspect too. Like make it fun.
Mhm.
Make it fun.
Yeah. I have
Find joy. Like you should have every day. You should have something that you're looking forward to that brings you joy. Whether it's the same
every day.
whether it's the same thing that's in a routine or something unique. It should be something.
Great point. I know that for me, I would be curious on you guys, when you brush your teeth every day, something we just all like to do. And when you do you typically look in the mirror?
Yeah, usually.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Usually.
Like if
At
I want to go
some
do
point-
something else, like I'll walk and do something
Yep.
else while I'm yeah.
I've done that too. At some point at the beginning of your day, do you look in the mirror?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So whether it's brushing your teeth, whether it's doing your hair, women doing their makeup, you have this ability to see yourself. True?
Yes.
And you have the ability to ask yourself at that given moment, do I have an abundance of enthusiasm today for what I'm going to go do? Ask that question. Start to ask that question to yourself every day. At the beginning of that day, when you're in the mirror, okay? It doesn't have to be the first thing. If you walk in, you get coffee or do whatever. When you get to that mirror the very first time, just ask that and say, you know what? Johnathan, Colin, Tim, do I have the ability to be 100% with an abundance of enthusiasm today? And if the answer is no, ask yourself why. Why? And then put your time to fix it. Because if you've got that reality check every day, the greater possibility that you can say yes to that 100% of enthusiasm is all you need.
Yeah.
But if you don't ask it and you don't tweak it, imagine what every day has to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a fantastic question. Yeah.
And it goes back to what you said in your previous point. Like people are going to be like, oh, like I work a 9-to-5 job. I work 8 hours a day for a job I don't like. How do I find the time to fix it? And it goes back to you said the baby steps, whether it's like if it starts with 15 minutes a day to fixing it to 30 minutes a day. The more you do that, the more you will love doing it. And
such a great example, and it's your world right now. They have the keys to the kingdom if they've really listened.
Yeah.
You're a phone call away to fix their resume. That's right. The first step, right? I mean, honestly, that's the first one. And if you say, hey, it's going to cost you this, and they don't have that, then they know the next problem. So what is the step? How do I get that?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I run from that because, oh, you know what? I want to change my world, but I need to have somebody do my resume, or I need to have somebody do this, or whatever I need, right? If you don't want to spend the time to do it, again, there's a want, but there's not a will.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say to yourself, hi, Jonathan, do I have 100% of enthusiasm today, abundance of enthusiasm to do today? My job is really killing me. Just hate this job. Well, what do you need to do? What do you need to do, Jonathan? Just write it down. Tackle that. I guarantee you when you go to bed and you wake up the next day and you started that just that little road, that you'll start to get where you want to go. But if you just go, yeah, no, oh well.
Yeah.
And off, and you go out and move your day, you're just living the chaos, because that's truly, now a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this line, but it's the truth. Just because that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
That's the choice. You have elected to negate that you don't have an abundance of enthusiasm and don't want to fix it. So now your next question should be, hi, Jonathan, how you doing? Do you have an abundance of enthusiasm to live through today? No. Are today you willing to do one thing to fix that? Nope. I choose not to fix it today. At least make it truthful. At least be authentic about it.
Yeah.
That's an actual first step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that brings a lot of, someone can be humble enough to ask those questions and be honest with those. Then it's, I didn't have a mind shift till, it was my mom. She's like, you are where you are because of every decision you have ever made.
Amen. Love her.
Yeah. And now that changes your decision making real quick too. Because everyone, I mean, you've probably seen it. We've talked to people with like this victim mentality. And I just watched this one clip of, I think it was with Goggins, and he's talking to him. He's like, dude, you don't know what I've been through. You don't know my life. He goes, yeah, I do. He goes, no, you don't. He goes, I know your mindset that no one understands what you're dealing with. He goes, I know that, and that's all I need to know. He's like, so get rid of that shit. He's like, to your point, want versus will. He's like, is it painful enough where you're going to do something about it?
Yeah. And there's a can in between that, the want and the will, and that's, can I believe that I can do it? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so do I have the capabilities and all of that? But I think that, rather than get people lost in all that, I'll cover that in some of my book, people pick that up, but it's like really understanding at least that want and the will. When I owned the acting studio, that was probably the biggest tragedy that walked through every door. I saw so many incredible, talented people that had want, but didn't have the will. Usually the driver was that was the tragedy and where it was, or that they were going to master, 4 decades in the industry, and I'm still not good. You know what I mean? And so, and still self-doubting every moment of my life and in my existence that I'm a fraud. But, everybody says the exact same thing that's in it. I was actually doing a Lifetime movie about 1.5 years ago, and the director, very well known, and his wife, very well known. And I said, yeah, I'm just, these one-liners I just hate them. She's like, you're so crazy when these scenes are great, like they're big and they're complex. You're like just on money. And then the one-liners, you could tell you're just not into it. I'm like, yeah, I just hate them. And she goes, yeah, I mean, we're always challenged to think that we're frauds, and so people walk into this studio and they want to be famous so they're there for the wrong reasons. Fame is the outcome, right? It's just an outcome you can't control. And so let that go. Don't let that be the driver, and come in and say, this is an evolution. It is so scary. Getting in class, performing in front of people is shedding your heart and giving everything that you have. I know I'm paralyzed by it tremendously. There are some actors I'm sure that are not, but I am. And I think anybody who doesn't walk into that studio and doesn't feel like, again, it's going to go back to, is it debilitating? Or is it just, I have to work through it? And so I would always say that's the biggest thing is I saw in the acting studio that I think transforms a lot into life. And I think that's with anybody in any world that they are. You'll see that's the biggest crux is that they want to be more than they are without doing the work. Yeah. And what do we call it? Fun work. Not hard work.
Fun work.
Fun work.
That.
Johnathan, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're kind of coming up to it. Anything else that we haven't covered? And, I want Tim and I ask any other last questions before our final, but anything else that, Johnathan, you want to make sure you convey to our audience? Anything else you really want to get across?
Yeah, the only thing I want to say is, I appreciate you guys' time, and the opportunity to share who I am to your audience, and I'm forever grateful for that. And I hope that anybody who hears this realizes that, I'm not perfect, that's for sure, and that we will not always agree. I know one thing: we will not agree on 100% of everything that we talk about. So if we don't agree with 100% of everything that we're going to talk about, let's let go of that and just be open-minded to hear it. Imagine if you do that to everything in life. And that's what I hope everybody would do, is just say, I don't have to agree with it, but I can hear it. I could listen to it and let it ponder. And so as I walk away from today, I hope that that's been conveyed for people to realize maybe there was a nugget here and that nugget's valuable. And if they have questions, I'm going to be very transparent with people. Feel free to reach out to me. Let me know. I like to hear this, the challenges. If I can fix it and help in that process and support it in any way, I would love to do that. Don't buy the book because there's an obligation or thinking that you're going to do a book and read it. I'd prefer that you don't buy the book, in the sense if you're just thinking I'm going to read it and then throw it on a shelf and not do any of the work. Save the money. Save the $29.95. You know what I mean? Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, just do yourself a favor and say that, and wait till you're ready to do it. But if you're truly ready to do it, I'm confident that I've tried to put it in a very fun way for them. And that's what I really want. Hopefully it got conveyed today for them. Is that you're dealing with somebody who's not perfect, but it's going to give a lot of their experience to what the world they've been in. And outside of that, you guys will have my website and all that available. It's, inspired by JG. I'll be uploading opportunity to buy the book on there as soon as I'm hopefully done here in the next month or so. And then I'm really trying to bring it into an interactive life. I'm trying to create some hats and some things like that, because I want you to be out there in the world living the book, And so there's a piece of that book that you can live, and people go, oh, that's a cool hat, and you're like, oh yeah, it's this book. It gets you a chance to reflect back onto staying in that now. So that's really the end piece I want, but I really appreciate the time. And
Likewise.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what is the name of your book?
It's going to be Your Life is Your Movie.
Love
so
it.
At the end of the day, you're creating your movie. I'm just going to give you some film tips of why each role is important. How do you correlate those into your life? Like if you look at the director is the kaleidoscope of understanding all the angles. So who's the director in your life? Are you the director in your life, and understand all of the angles, right? Sound, sound is capturing the essence of the tones and of the words. How are you listening to the world? So each one's got the film term, and it correlates to how that can be in your life. And then there's a guidance piece with that in each chapter. And then each act is broken down with my story, my personal story. And I tried to get as raw as I could with people, and so that they could see that I'm flawed, and I'm still trying myself to get through this journey of life, but doing it in a very fun way. So that's what it's about.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Tim, anything else for Johnathan before our last?
No, that was going to be my question: is when, where, and how can people access the book? And what we'll do is we'll plug it in our intro and our show notes. And I'll also cut this part out, but our plan was to release this episode like week of November 15th. Would it work for you for us to release it at like a certain time strategically to promote the book, or do you
book launch date?
Yeah, or do you want us to just proceed with launching it? Because we were just going to launch this episode mid-November.
Yeah,
but
I think
it's
launching. Yeah, I need to just put on my site and make sure that people know it's coming soon. The biggest challenge that I've had is I'm working with my editor, and we're now going through the very final stage of just proofing everything and formatting it in there so that I can actually push it there. But I think waiting to get the word out there and all that doesn't make sense. I think as long as we know that people can go to Inspired by JG, it's going to have some contact information there, and say it's coming here. And maybe I can even get that set up. My goal this next week is to get that set up with like pre-orders and stuff of that nature.
Perfect.
I think you have to jump into the now. So I appreciate the question, but that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. When we publish this, like I mean, we'll send you the episode and everything, but I'll follow up with you again right
Okay,
before we publish it and be like, hey, is
cool.
there anything that we need to like plug in here for the show notes to help plug people into the book better? But yeah, it makes sense.
That's great.
Okay,
I
cool.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan, I got one more, and then we ask all of our guests the same question. But this one, for a friend, and he thinks, he's still young in his career, thinks at some point there could be a section of acting. Maybe he's not going to be the next McConaughey, but maybe 2.0. Grew up performing, musician, does impersonations. Where should that person start if in the next 5 years wants to try to do some amount of acting in their career? Again, for a friend. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right, good.
Yep.
For a friend.
Yeah.
I'm reading that context that's not being said. Okay, cool. The first thing is don't wait for 5 years. Actually jump in there. There's so much opportunity to join film communities now on, Facebook and social media, different social media sites, to learn and hear what people are doing and see what's available in your neighborhood and what's going on. Find an agent in your neighborhood and actually start getting out there on commercial work. Commercial work is fantastic. It gives you some really great money. It allows you to get in front of the camera. It allows you to meet some people in the group, and everybody's going to book a commercial. Isn't that the best part?
Fair enough.
Everybody's going to book a commercial. So anytime I shared a commercial class, I would always tell people, just so you guys all know, you're going to all book one. It's fantastic. It's how fast and far and in between are you booking the next one and the next one and the next one. And that's where the experience will come into play. So when you get out there in the world and you just start to use your persona, that's the safest environment right away.
Okay.
It's the easiest environment. People want to bring forward. They don't care if you don't have a resume. So, and that allows you to be in the do and in the now with getting an agent and getting some kind of work and starting to develop comfort in things. Well, now maybe you investigate some classes. Now maybe you investigate, we're going to try a theater, or do what I want to do in television? Do I want to do stand-up? Do I want to do a stand-up and I want to do classes, right? For that, get an agent and just say, listen, at this point, I know I'm comfortable to try out for commercials.
Cool.
And in that journey, if you feel you want to explore that and expand that out, you can always let them know, I want to expand that to small parts.
Okay.
You can go for big ones. Here's the catch. If you're comfortable, and we don't know, nobody knows, this is the beauty of it. People could land something ASAP.
Yeah.
We had a young kid walk through our studio, and I hope he doesn't mind us saying this, but I won't use any names, but because I want to be fair to that. But he walked into our studio and was there a couple times, worked with one of our other coaches as well. And he's on a major series right now. And awesome. He didn't have a massive background, right? So it's crazy what can happen. The industry will let you know if they like you.
Okay.
Just remember that. That's the cool piece about it. And there is no look. And as we get older, as we get wiser, as we get more aged, we bring new flavors to our work. My mom was actually obese. It's kind of crazy when you think of all the things I've shared. And we used to have those kind of conversations all the time. It's probably the way that I am, right? That DNA. And she said to me, there was a company out there and when we were in LA, Hollywood, and she said, some company came up to me and said, I'd be perfect for commercials. And I said, no, not me. She's like, you want my son? And I showed him a picture of you and they said, no, we don't want him. He's too attractive. We want you. We want you because you're every day. You're every day. And that's the thing that people get lost sight of. They think that you have to be this attractive person and all that. That is just not the truth. There's everyday people out there. So I say jump on in, and the best way to jump in is commercials. Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll really appreciate that.
Good job, Ed.
He thinks, yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait to tell him about that later.
Yeah. We'll
totally.
for sure.
And have him make sure he lets me know how it goes.
Will do. Yeah. I'll hold him accountable for sure.
Cool.
All right. So Jonathan, we always like to wrap up our shows just by asking how, when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, wow. That's like inside the actor's studio, like you went to the pearly gates, right? Peter created you. How do I want to be remembered? Is genuine. You know, like literally someone who gave you everything in the most authentic way possible, and that you knew that cared. And that care piece is really that you knew that they were courageous enough to say the hard things, right? But they were gentle enough to reflect when it was too hard and make their mistakes, but know that you could always count on them because they were genuine and authentic to you. That if I could do that, I mean, I don't know what else would there be in life that you would do, right? It's the greatest gift to have.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Love it.
Thank you
what a
so
good answer.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very
This has
much.
been
We
an amazing
appreciate it.
interview. You said how many people will listen to this a second time? I'm gonna listen to it a second time when I go create these show notes, and I can't wait to listen to it again. It's
At
gonna be
least
good.
4 over here will listen to it twice.
Yeah. Four people. Yeah. That's right.
So if we got 4 people, 4 people, right? 6, and I'll be listening to it again too. My own growth. So that we got a group started. We got a definite group here. Well, I appreciate the time, guys. You've made my journey on this extraordinary, jumping off the diving board and being able to do this. So thank you very much. And I look forward to watching you guys grow and continue to become amazing. So thank you.
I'm sure we'll have a part 2 at some point. And if your future endeavors land you into podcasting, you ever have any questions, we're always happy to help.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
How things work, how we do things. So,
Awesome.
all right. Thank you very much again, Johnathan. We appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Cheers, man. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
You too.
Yep.